Recording of the meeting. Okay. We are recording. Can you see?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So let me go then through the slides. We will have a discussion of the agenda, the summary of the bilateral meetings, the overview of the survey results. So we will have maybe 24 minutes for that. The short presentations for those that may have prepared the small presentations, or for those that would like just to do like a short discussion, let's say oral discussion about the topics that we propose for the short presentations, the breakout sessions. We need to discuss the contributions to the annual report and then the next steps. So this is more or less the time that we have divided the meeting. As you see, we are relatively tight on time. We expect that we are efficient on doing this discussions, but the important part is that everyone at the end knows what the different partners have answered during the survey, and that we can start, let's say, start right away the sharing of the models from the beginning, or yes, from the beginning of the next year. Just for your information, so in the PFL team, there were like some additions to the team. There were some changes. There is also, we are closely collaborating with our partners from Belgium that are here in the room. So you can as well, during the short presentation, you can introduce yourself and we can discuss about your concerns as well about the tool, as well as other the partners that are already in the room. And just for mentioning to you that this first part of the year, we are more interested in these activities. That is the activity 1, specification, ontologies, and procedures that are related to the concerns of sharing, confidentiality, but also about the structure of the data, the models, and how we are going to document them. And there has been like very good, let's say, feedback and inputs in the survey that we are going to discuss. This corresponds more or less to the 3 first objectives about the definitions, the sharing rules, and the discussion on the other energy system models. And I am going to give quickly an overview of the bilateral meetings. So there were, we really need to thank all of you because there were a really enriching bilateral meetings with many people with very honest opinions. They sent us many, let's say, feedback about how they develop models, which are the main problems even for sharing models between the different institutions. So among those, let's say, keywords that we realize in all of these notes and minutes that we talk about, it is like there are different dimensions, especially the part of the confidentiality. How do we manage it? The proprietary software, the approvals, embargoes, the patenting, the privacy related to the confidentiality, but also about the technical part. So how do we optimize, which software do we use, how to calculate the thermodynamic properties, which are the simulation tools. We are going to see some summaries about that. The part of the collaboration. So there were many good options, let's say, that have been proposed for starting the collaboration with different layers. The first is the transparency, the on-demand, let's say, approval for the model sharing, but someone proposed some good aspects about the layered access. So how can we start first sharing a little bit of information and then expand the amount of information that we have for this database? The part of the validation and quality, there were a lot of interesting discussions as well about the certification, how to peer review in small groups, how do we benchmark. But overall, the idea is to have like some metrics that at the end pass some trust towards the models. And then other concepts that you can see that are related, of course, about the interoperability, the different scales of the model preparations and so forth. So we will see more of that in the audit. But there were a couple of ideas that they draw a lot of attention, and then even in the audits, many people also resonated with them. So about the part of the exchange policies, I mean, when we are talking about industrial partners or even between the researchers, so there are these restrictions that many of you already raised. From the part of the interfaces, so if we want to talk to different stakeholders, researchers, or even with society, there needs to be different interfaces to show the information to them. About tackling the confidentiality of the projects, how do we share even models between universities when we do exchanges between other universities? So students, they, let's say, migrate from one university to another. From the part of Italy as well, there was an idea about the portability and compatibility of those models. So people that work mostly with control, with engineering, with chemistry. And as many of you have been identified with engineering, probably we are going to have a higher, so a larger weight on this dimension of the model sharing. So about the added value and why it's better to have a better documentation instead of just journal publications that are rigid PDFs, the validation in subtasks, the anonymization, but still keeping the real world relevance. So that's about the trust and the completeness of the model. The open access data, that is something that from Switzerland side we are pushing mostly for like having a bigger database, the most detailed database that we can have. The shading options of, let's say, models that have been built with proprietary software. And finally, the part of the dissemination and use in educational platforms. So for the template, basically, there were like some suggestions regarding the simplicity of the template. So no one wants to spend too much time in learning different mock-up interfaces in which you need to have a specific, let's say, ISO norms or DXP formats that are more specific for PID design, such as instrumentation, but also FMI, in which they require like a specific implementation, compiled C functions, or standardized APIs for the interfaces, and also some binaries for different operating systems. So we would like to simplify the definition of our model, and that's why we adopted something that it was more related about the CAPE open approach. So we know that they are specific for chemical process simulations, but it can be adapted to the people that is also working with mechanical, with fuel cell, PV panel models that are not necessarily chemical, but that at one point we see that it actually agrees with our definition of the model interface, in which we have mass, energy, and information ports. And whatever is inside, it can be classified parameters that we can say is private, is public, so we can have these different layers of black, gray, and white. So many people as well, they assumed that everyone was using Aspen, and then they were thinking, well, we are going to put documentation inside of Aspen, but it may happen that some people use Python with CodeProp, DWC, that is the open source version of Aspen. And for that reason, we then proposed this template, that it was a summary, so as we say, of the different metadata, that it was able to do the versioning, the classification, or as a first glance, for instance, the capacity. But then our template, if we can quickly, let's say, in some slides, describe which is the idea, is like to try to define this that we call the foregrounds of my model and the interactions with the different infrastructure, the different markets, and even with the environment or other systems. So that is because my model is part of other systems in which it's important to determine which is the market, but also the waste and how can I valorize the waste at the end. This is why we defined this part that is like the interfacing of the model with the global database. So basically, which are the connections of my model in terms of mass and energy, electricity, and emissions, and which are the variables that can define those let's say, states of the different connections. So I can have some compositions, what defines some quality, and how can I connect this specific connector to another model. So here we are not necessarily revealing all of the information of the chemicals, the kinetics, and all of the let's say, equation of a state that we need for our model. That's there in our simulator. So in our Aspen, in our Python with CoolProp, in our DWC. And for that, the model is really simple because it only realizes about the sockets of the connections that we have in our system and which are the consequences in terms of mass, input, and outputs of my system, and heats that are available for exchanging, either for receiving heat or for releasing heat. For instance, we have here a simple example of how we have done it for different sectors. And as you can see, we can simply show in a socketing, let's say, fashion, which are the mass flows or which are the conditions of the inputs and outputs of my system. All of the details, then, they can be given as supplementary data. And then in this way, we can simplify somehow the representation of these systems. This is also a way in which we can do a radiography of my model, how the heat streams can be, let's say, put to the disposition of the other models so that we are able to see at which level of temperatures and how much heat is available with them. And then this is allowed by using only this small amount of data. And as we can see in the audits, there were some commentaries on why this may be expanded a little bit more or even reduced in terms of complexity. But this is the let's say, the reason of being of our simplified model. And as we can see, most of the participants, they actually resonated with this simplified model, but maybe, as we are going to see after, some of them say there could be some improvements that could be done on it. And then this is what we will continue discussing through the presentation. So, Oktay, if you would like to share, or you want me to pass and you talk it.
I could sit there maybe.
Yes.
Okay, now we are going to discuss about the outcome of the survey that you've been contributing to. So thank you for your investment of time in it. So I would like to tell you a bit about the tools that you are being using and the ways of versioning, storing these models, and the, let's say, methodology that you've been practicing to develop the models. So firstly, if you look at the model documentation, people probably because of the comfort, they would like to annotate the Aspen files and provide the necessary information when they pass the files to their colleagues in the form of, let's say, notes on Aspen. But it might be convenient, but at the same time, it's highly personalized. There are some cases where I received some Aspen files where it is in either different language or it's hard to tell what's the source of the information is coming from. So we need for sure, let's say, standardized way of sharing information. So this is a must. And eventually also Aspen is a licensed software. So it's not the goal of the project. Let's say it's against the goal to keep everything open source at the end. There was a comment from a participant saying they have a practice of, let's say, using Markdown wikis and they put the models in the GitLab. So we have seen how you store the models. Most of the people, let's say, prefer private cloud storage. So this might be maybe requires, let's say, consideration because in Switzerland, for example, you are not allowed to keep the information outside Switzerland, let's say. So we need a, let's say, solution that could host for everyone's information. We could discuss in more detail after, but eventually we need to choose a solution that is easy to use and, let's say, easy to host by everyone else. So we asked you which kind of tools you are being using for modeling and integration optimization and which combinations you are using it. So some people that work with Osmos or any kind of, let's say, optimization tool, the pattern is very clear. So we also do first Aspen models. So we translate them into a, let's say, intermediary like Osmos. It could be different, let's say, wrappers for someone else. Then they use these models in solvers like Ample or Groby. And then they use Python for post-processing. So everyone reported that the choice of processing of information for them is Python. But again, it's not the centric of the, let's say, initiative. So it's not to say in what term you would like to process the information, but we'd like to just keep the information accessible by everyone else and not impose a way of, let's say, doing the things. Then if you look at the methodology for the modelings and optimization you have been following, most of the people, so the choice is the sequential flow sheets. So Aspen or DWSIM, and it's clear that Aspen has the lead in this case, or equation-oriented approaches. So this, I would say, aligns with the, let's say, thinking we had in the way when we developed the templates, and the optimization methodology that has been used by the people are MILP or just linear programming. So we also provided you some screenshots in the survey for receiving feedbacks on the template that we have provided. I remember it was a, let's say, topic also during the bilateral discussions that there must be a link to provide the publications that, let's say, benefited from the models that has been shared. So people suggested maybe we include the DOI, we include the publication info and contact of authors. Of course, it's very important to receive the credits for all the models that has been shared. So we agree with this approach, let's say. And of course, we need to, when we are obtaining So when you're uploading these models, ideally we need to facilitate also sharing of the supplementary files coming along with it. And we could always mark them as in progress, maintained, or archived. Let's say there must be a labeling of some sort of progress indicator for all the models. Then if you look at the connectors that we propose in the template, some people said it's not extremely, let's say, clear how the phase and the composition of the connectors have been defined. So we could maybe put some more thinking on it. So there was also some complaints that, well, maybe my flows could contain, let's say, multiple, like, let's say, a very high number of, let's say, chemicals inside it. So we need to make it simple and straightforward to be inputted, let's say, this kind of information. So we agree with you on this point, and we will think, let's say, to simplify this approach. And there was a comment about why there are no CO2 impacts or prices attached to these connectors. So the goal is not to impose. So of course, this is something very subjective where you define your problem and where you evaluate your model in geographically or in the market conditions. So our goal is not to impose these kind of values, but we just need to impose, let's say, the quality of these connectors. So in case you are supposed to integrate this model with other models that you receive from people, we just need to make sure that this contact is feasible because it's chemically and qualitatively, it's the same connector. Beyond that, I would say the CO2 impact and the prices, well, it depends on your choices and your evaluation of problems. Then if you go into the variables, it has been said that the user grade is not clear. So in this case, what we were thinking for the user grade is, so when you receive a model, maybe your intention is just to, let's say, benefit from it and use it. So in this case, to make it simpler for you, maybe it's easy to indicate which kind of variables that must be played with. Let's say if it's a heat pump model, maybe you just play with condenser and evaporator temperatures and it's enough for you. But if you would like to, let's say, customize the model or, I don't know, in some terms, adapt it to your needs, well, then maybe you could dig deeper into the models. But of course, to make it simple to use these models, we would like to maybe label some variables as optional, private, or mandatory in these terms for the usage. There was a feedback about the multi-period, so it's not very clear. To be honest, we need to think deeper in this approach, how we would like to obtain the information from you. So because some models could be affected by the temporal changes of, let's say, ambient conditions or any other reason. So this could affect also how you model the things. So we need to, let's say, get this information from you. So we will think a bit on this approach, how you could input this data, maybe through a CSV file or how you link it to variables. So this is an open discussion still. And there was a comment about LaTeX syntax, why it's necessary. Well, it could be dropped maybe, I'm not sure also this one. It was an idea that has been put months ago. Well, maybe things have changed now. And if we go further to the feedbacks on the unit definitions inside the templates, there was some comments about, well, if you would like to use these in pinch analysis, so ideally this amount of information would be necessary, but if you are going to go into the details of heat network designs, maybe we could, let's say, decorate these heat streams in more information about heat capacities or mass flows. So it's always nice to have these kind of information, and it's not an extra work, let's say. So we could add more, let's say, fields listening to your feedback. And there has been quite, I would say, comments on the equipments. So I would say that people, maybe it's an important point for people to receive good information on the economic costs, so because it affects the decision making, right? So they suggested that the referencing should be established very well, and the specification of each equipment needs to be also provided neatly. Let's say this was the demand by the survey. And if you go further, there was a question about, do you think that these suggested template format would suit in all of the models? 4 task members said, yes, it seemed very aligning with my modeling approach. and 3 of them was, let's say, more skeptical about it. So I liked one of the proposed approach. So it was suggesting that we maybe provide a tree of how we see a model today. We could offer a template that is commonly acceptable for most of the models, but there could be specific cases where you could, let's say, extend your tree and define very, let's say, exceptional templates for certain things. So I like the idea. It could be maybe it's worth investing time on for later development, I would say. So if we summarize the findings of the survey for this site, so to be clear, Excel is not, let's say, the final format of inputting data that we expect to feed the database, but it's just indicative and it has a communication purpose to show which kind of information we require from you to establish a good model with mass and energy flows. The storage of the models, uploading of the models should be, let's say, housed and facilitated in an easy-to-use platform that everyone is familiar. So there has been already time investment, let's say, questions by some participants. So we would like to keep it as simple as possible. Core template, I would say most of the people, they agreed with the proposal that we had. But we received your feedbacks. Thanks again, and we will enrich the template for the necessary points, I would say. And maybe we will provide also this tree approach that we already developed at some point of time. And I've seen that some people, half of the respondents were interested in, let's say, participating in maybe further development of this template. So in terms of when people feel that, okay, maybe some special cases need special treatments, we could arrange a meeting to discuss with them to further develop our approach, maybe.
Yeah.
And just to summarize, so the feedback you have been given, I think it's very positive. People are willing to, let's say, share their models and how to do it, ways of sharing, we will discuss after this, but people are willing to share the models, validate the models. There's an interest to see what other peoples are doing. So I think
provided that it's published. So that's one of the trends that we have seen. Yeah.
This will be emphasized further. And these, well,
this is because there is this challenge about like where are we going to store it? And we know that the ways in which it has been proposed, like using spreadsheets or using Dropbox or OneDrive or Excel or Word for defining the who has and when it has been changed every file, is very challenging if it's not done in a specific platform like GitHub or GitLab. So maybe there will be a need for some workshops in which, for the people that is not familiar with GitHub or GitLab, we could see how can we, let's say, transfer this knowledge of using GitLab or GitHub. If it's the case that the spreadsheets of the Word files using a note is still okay, well, we can still discuss it as well bilaterally. Many of you say that they're familiar with GitHub, so we can iterate on that. So this is just for telling you that we have, in fact, also some frameworks that we discussed during the presentation. In our case, I mean, we can already take like some time for explaining you quickly which are our tools. So we use the same MILP approach with a tool that is called Osmos, but we don't want to impose this approach, because if you see in the bilaterals, we discuss it with other researchers that use different approaches with different solvers. So as Oktay was mentioning, the interest in the beginning is try to define the best structure of the model, and then afterwards we can see and also share different types of integrating approach and see how they can be, let's say, used with the same type of template of the model. With this, we go next to the overview of the rules of the game and some of the concerns and expectations that you showed during the survey.
Yeah, okay, so first question regarding the rules of the game, let's say. Again, thanks a lot for your participation in the review. Regarding the industrial data confidentiality, the anonymization techniques, the most voted one, it was to use synthetic data based on real data to try to anonymize the data. And regarding the layer sharing of sensitive models, most of you agreed to share like structure and topology, but the full details, no. So like this is a point for discussion into the next breakout session. Regarding the recognition and credits, most of you said that, of course, citation is very important. Also, they mention in the studies that employ open access data. And here are some of the comments. The thing is that the recognition depends on the level of the model of use. So this, as some person suggests, to be discussed like case by case. We also have, this could be an opportunity, like this sharing of, depending of the model, of collaboration among different original developers. So co-authorship, like, and other collaborations in scientific publications. Also, but we have some concerns regarding law. So like at which extent it could be shared and it cannot be shared, depending like the Danish law cannot allow this. But also the main common thing, it's like to standardize guidelines, so we all be in the same page for this sharing. The next, it's regarding the intellectual property protection mechanisms. We have that. We have also some law regarding the Danish Copyright Act. So it's allowed only to share methodological descriptions or aggregated results, but not the full models, because it belongs to the SDIU. And it would be needed like a bilateral legal agreement to allow this use of the models, let's say. And regarding the other partner, also emphasized that regarding the protection mechanisms, it's required that the proprietary models be distributed primarily as compiled binary or functional mockup units, like the black box approach. Regarding the multi-layered sharing approach, the one that was most supported, it's the public metadata, of course. And after like a full model details is supported, but most of you also don't support, like, or it's unsure, like depend on how will be the discussions between the parties.
One of the interesting points here as well is that some of you, you see that you are gradually available, or you are gradually ready to share as well some structure topology, mass and energy balances. But as long as we go deep dive into the type of details, we will need to have different layers in which, as we were discussing with the Belgian consortium, for instance, on demand. So if you would like to know about kinetic data or thermodynamic data, the packages, maybe you will need to contact directly the authors. But some of them say, okay, mass and energy balances, and we have shown at the beginning, input, outputs, or some gray boxes, then they are still, let's say, ready to share. So this layered approach, I guess that is important, because it will help us to eventually do a first, like in a starting point, to determine which models are of which category. And then if someone is interested to share, like after they have published it, or the embargo period, the patent. So this is also possible. It means that the database will be variable. So you change it. You can build it along the time as well.
Yeah.
Let me add to this dimension of confidentiality.
Yep.
Something which is also important is that we do not.
I think I need to turn
you
your
hear
phone.
me? Yeah. So we do not share cost information. So the value of electricity, the value of gas, the value of the social emissions, even the conditions under which you have been doing the evaluation are not disclosed. So you just disclose mass flows and the list of assets that are needed to create those mass and energy flows. Okay, and this is also important because then you decide what you give access to, and can be one state that you have been calculating one day, or it can be a model. So it means a list of states generated by a list of parameters. But we do not disclose the information that the company said, okay, use this value of electricity, use this value of gas, or use this annualization factor. So even the annualization factor is something which is left to the evaluation, but not to the sharing part. Okay? And I know know that we have, because we are going to discuss about the cost estimation. So one of the strategy of the cost estimation is to say that we will have assets, so equipments, like a compressor of a given size, and all the rest is going also to be considered as being uncertain. So we can have different ways of estimating the cost of the compressor, for example. And we will try to collect information so that at the end we will not answer this cost, but we will answer this range of cost with this kind of probability, right? Which is completely different because it allows us to share.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, someone is going to say, where is this value coming from?
Yeah.
Right? And then we will be clear on this.
Okay,
So it is a model, it is an observation of the market based on something which is available publicly.
yeah, definitely. Well, just to conclude the survey regarding the model validation, we have that most of you voted for literature benchmarking and also peer review through publication process. There was a very nice idea from the Portugal team that it was to create the sub-teams to compare and validate specific models. So most of you also voted favor to this and also to the open comparison among all the participants of the test. Regarding the expectations, most of you expect like to contribute to global decarbonization efforts and also to, but mostly like to save time in developing models, to avoid it is reinvented the wheel. And also this can be a strategic opportunity to get new projects and ideas, to also benchmark and validate in internal models, and to avoid like not waste time, but put efforts in things that it was already developed. The main concerns and barriers for most of you, it's regarding time, the time dedication, the licensing issues, and also the common understanding of the legal barriers. And if we are using a software that it's requires a license, how we can deal with that. And regarding the features of the model database, it's this, yes. So we have some critical features that it's mainly like how we are going to search for the different sector, technology, TRL. The important one, it was like filter my model type and software, and the nice to have its statistics for download and review and rating. So regarding this confidentiality and considerations, we have the yes, and anonymization of the model achieved through generalization, mainly like based in thermodynamics, obfuscation, and aggregation data. So we have the model, we do this data of the plant, of the chemical plant, we do the data anonymization, and we develop a blueprint that will be the ex-ante model regarding this. So just to conclude this part of the confidentiality regarding your main recommendations for enabling and establishing and maintaining this ex-ante model database. So here are some comments that we extracted from the survey. And most of you say that like defining this standard model structure template, it's very important. And we need to start it soon because as we start it, like we learn also by doing, and we can see how it works and which are the things that are not working. And we built this a long time. It's also very important that we establish a centralized framework and that we have one-on-one discussions for further understanding of the concept, and that we also like one very interesting thing, it was like, why should many of us start from the beginning all the time and not having a foundation to build on? So this is the starting point and also the biggest motivation of this task.
Okay, so maybe we can have like time for all of you as well, giving your impressions. If you have like some slides, you can also share the slides in the Zoom. If you would like just to express, we have like prepared 6 minutes per each participant country. If you would like to express again in plenum your concerns, we discuss in the bilateral meetings, or maybe clarify if something was misunderstood from the survey or from the bilateral meeting, just we have reserved this period of the time is around 1 hour for it. So if someone wants to candidate yourself, remember that the topics are first, which is your model or models for the starting point. I mean, we understand that at the beginning it may be complicated to have all of the details at once, and then one model for a starting point, it will be enough for the beginning of the next year. We check the simplified models together with you in the bilaterals, and then we see if there is, let's say, a specific concerns on the template that we need to bring back again into until, let's say, we have this first approach or this first, let's say, generally approved approach of the template. But also we would like to see then the part of the levels of model sharing for this first approach, this starting point model, if you have like a specific model that you would like to start with, and if it's compatible in the way that is now with the template that we are proposing, or with the characteristics, as Francois was mentioning, if you would like to give more or less information about it, depending on the project, if it's ongoing, if it's finished, if it's published or not. So if someone would like to start, I will give just the floor from the people that is maybe far from Portugal.
Fraunhofer, Chile.
Yeah, maybe I can call one from the list that we are seeing here. So Diego, if you would like to open your mic and then give us some of your, let's say, starting point models, and if it's compatible or not with the template, and what do you think then that we can do for solving the problems that Fraunhofer Chile may find when trying to share the model, let's say, with the full consortium?
Yes, of course. Hello, everyone. I am Diego Naranjo from Fraunhofer Chile. And here in Fraunhofer Chile, the specialty of the house is the solar models. So we developed models for industrial process, district heating, and everything of actually applications that solar thermal or solar electricity models we develop. So I guess I was showing the templates, and the most of the templates have all the variables that our models could, needs to get or to function and to work.
Yep.
So for that part, it's okay, especially if the templates are more like a text block, because we work mainly with transits. So transits receive that like CSV or TXT files to work in the transits. The most complicated for from Fraunhofer is to change the models, is the confidentiality, because it's the main worry that the company have. So when we develop some model or something like that, we have a very big like intellectual arrangement or intellectual rules to share these things, but we could simplify our models to share this type of models. That is the part from Fraunhofer.
And then this kind of, let's say, limitation that you mentioned, then if, for instance, you choose the first layers of the structure or the first layers of the mass and energy balances, well, in the case of solar, it will be a part of the electricity generation. You also mentioned that you work with the part of solar concentration.
Excuse me again, please.
Do you also work with the parts of solar concentration, or is mostly photovoltaic panels?
Principally for thermal solar, and in everything, not just concentration. Yes.
Okay. Okay, so thank you. And then do you think that then from the point of view of the time, you will, I mean, this will be like a much more involvement from the side of Fraunhofer, or is doable with the time that you can invest for the task? So we know that it's not so much time that we ask about the task, but in this way you will be able as well to have access to models from someone else that has developed a model similar to the PV panels. You will be interested to be like in these sort of subgroups that are focused in the part of the solar technologies. So I guess that you will also be willing to participate in these subgroups. If there is no other objections, and then I will give the floor to someone else. Okay.
Yes.
Okay,
Daniel, just a remark on the confidentiality.
yes.
So I would like to insist on the fact that a priori the models are not confidential because they just express the thermodynamics, and the thermodynamics is not confidential. So it means that there can be somewhere a process design perhaps that is confidential because it has not been patented and is a secret.
I don't think people is.
But otherwise, every model that is using parameters that are public, so that we can show or reference in a public, in something which is a public paper.
About the flow rates, temperatures, pressures, so data about the process.
Yes.
And this data, maybe this data could be finished.
Yes, but and there are two tricks on it. Either you parameterize it, so it means that there is nothing that is imposed. So you can use 100 degrees C or 120 and the model will still work. So what you publish is therefore the min and max bounds, and the min and max bounds will not be confidential. Okay. In case where you use catalyst, for example, of course, in this case, there is something which is confidential. And therefore, what we do, at least in my group, we always develop models first with public information. So the values that are published in the literature. And then afterwards, when we work with an industry, then we use their own values. Okay, but and we share the model with the public information and never the value with the values of the
Yeah, for that case, it's possible. And what we can do is for each model, we can use some public values or some values that. Then there are, if the process is well integrated in terms of energy, for instance, the values cannot be so different from the ones that is the reality.
Yes.
Not the integration is not anymore valid or so. So maybe some issues will arise.
This is true, but there will be two steps there. The first one is that we are going to generate the heat transfer interfaces. So it means that you disassemble the present heat recovery system to generate the best one. Okay. And then on the other hand, so we have always the freedom of showing an instance of the model that we know is public. On the other hand, so what I can then say is that the experience we have with those kind of models, which are public information based, is that they are considered as being really robust by the industrial partners, because they see that it is very difficult to beat because the thermodynamics does not lie, right? So it means that the value that we share and we generate with the models that we have is solid. It does not mean that we just represent the performance of this company. I know that, for example, I've been working with Total Energy, and the model that I have used to work with Total Energy was a model of INEOS. Okay, but INEOS has shared the model and say you can show those values. And I went to Total Energy and say I'm starting with this one, and I'm going to fit with this one your process. And everyone was happy. Okay, and I did not infringe any confidentiality issues.
So
we need to assure that this is accomplished case by case.
Yes, so that's
one should say what is public, what could be public,
What could not.
and could not.
yeah, that needs to be. So that's one of the suggestions. So case by case. So maybe for the people that is far as well. So this is the impressions of Switzerland. So it's pushing about the full open sourceness. And then the discussion with Portugal, so basically this part of the case-by-case analysis, and eventually subgroups, let's say, of experts to see what it could be or how it could be hidden, this confidentiality, before we release the model, like in plenum, to the full consortium. So if someone, and then if Portugal has another remark, or can I then
Yes,
pass the word to?
it's the remarks, especially from my colleague Fernando,
Yes,
but he's not.
Professor Fernando Martins will have to leave the meeting in
Yes.
about 10
Okay.
minutes, so if we could share our slides. 'Cause
okay,
That
please go
would
ahead.
do. Yes, okay.
my microphone and my laptop doesn't work. Can I still?
Yes, let me put it there. Right, so let me see if that's okay. All right, so thank you for the opportunity to share here a bit of the Portuguese perspective. We will start with the IST side, and then I'll give the floor to Professor Fernando Martins. So just so you are all familiar with our team, most of us are here today, for the exception of Professor Pedro Mendes, but the contact in the core researchers for this task will be myself and Daniel Souza here. And then, of course, we have Professor Henrique Matos and Professor Carmen Bacariza here with us today as well. In terms of the shareable models that we would like to propose as a starting point for this task would be the CO2 to methanol model. It's a well-established technology at a TRL of 9, so already at commercial operation. We have been simulating this using Aspen Plus, which, as you said, is the most common situation. It's unpublished for now, but we estimate that we'll be able to share this model sometime soon, beginning of next year, hopefully. And in terms of the compatibility with the template you shared, I think it will be fully compatible, especially regarding what we were discussing, the heat integration. This model is without heat integration. We have others, of course, but in that sense, definitely compatible and workable with this starting point, yes. So I would like to thank you all for the great compilation of our point of view with the survey we filled out. We just have here just some more important points we would like to highlight. So in terms of the metadata, the table you shared in the beginning about the model, we think it's very important to have the contact of the authors or the corresponding author, especially for the longevity of the task. Let's say in 5 years' time or something, someone wants to use the model. If they have the contact of the authors, it would be much easier to do so. And of course, the indication of the publication and the DOI, if published. And even if it's not published, there must be a permanent identifiers, just so it's traceable in terms of reusing models and so on. In terms of the external connectors, I think you highlighted most of our concerns regarding the phase fraction and other classifications, which weren't super clear to us as the outsiders looking into the terminology you use. But we would like to also highlight that I think it's important, but in regards to confidentiality, might have to be revised, but things like flow rate and energy consumption should also be included for external connectors. In terms of the economic analysis, I think this is where we had the most things to add, I would say. We would like it to be slightly more specific than initially proposed, and I think you explained that very well already. So CapEx for the equipment, and also just be a bit more specific on the type of equipment that's being used. We use, for example, heat exchangers. As you all know, there's a plethora of different categories, and we think it's important to have that defined as well. Also the material that's used in the equipment and so on. Also to have define a better ontology in general, just so we're all in agreement and it's coherent for all. But I think that was already spoken well previously. So in terms of just the confidentiality and what we would like to highlight today, mainly, and I think the results of the form showed it as well, it's important to have a bit of an embargo period to share the models before they are published. And I think that was well understood by the other consortium. So I think we can jump to, in terms of confidential industrial data, and here we're speaking more about the specific cases, such as the ones we were just talking about, where data is shared by a company, but just specifically for a project or the institution to use internally and not be published. But I think that's something we will discuss further as well, but we just like to highlight that. And also the robustness of the projects. And this is where we also suggested the creation of sub-teams or sub-tasks to have someone ensuring there's some sort of process that all models have to go through to ensure the robustness.
So yeah, I'll give the floor now to Professor Fernando Martins, please.
Hello, hello everybody. So I'm sorry to not stay in Lisbon, but it's impossible at this time because due to a lot of professional things to do. So
Fernando, I just would like to just complement something on what has been said. With respect to the robustness.
Yes.
I think that the goal will have to have a validation process.
Definitely.
So it means that normally a model that is shared is not just shared by you, but it is validated by someone else that ensures that the integrity and the robustness of the model. Right?
Most definitely.
So it means that we have to add this into the procedure
For sure.
of sharing.
That's why we mentioned some sub-teams that will work in some specific projects. They have already someone that have already this methanol, for instance, this green methanol already done. They can talk and have bilateral meetings, let's say, or small team meetings to validate or try to make it robust and ask why you do that. I did something else different, but let's converge to the final solution.
Okay, that's perfect. Yeah.
So, Professor Fernando.
Yes. Sorry.
because I have to leave in 10 minutes at maximum. Okay, sorry for that. But concerning the University of Porto and my team, we have several models, but one that I think that is in the point we shared is the production of syngas from biomass. So we have, can you pass the slide? Okay, thank you. We have several approaches using Aspen Plus that was validated with more 400 experimental observations with different biomass and so on. And we have also, and these are the typical Aspen models that are available to simulate this type of process. And all of three approaches were compared with experimental data that are available on literature. And these databases have more than 400 data. So, and in other way, we test also using machine learning, and you can go to the other slides, okay? Is using machine learning approach also to predict the composition of syngas at outlet of these systems. Here, generally, these approaches have better results than the approach using Aspen Plus. So at this moment we are publishing this work, but I think that is one model that can be put available for our system. Okay. So as I already said during the bilateral meeting, my main concerns is about the confidentiality, because we develop a lot of models, some of them with companies and with different equipment for this type of process, and these companies are not have some concerns about to put these models public. Okay, and this is my main concern.
Thank you. Yeah, Fernando, but can you have it models a little bit, let's say, without the confidential data, so the structure of the model could be available, as I mentioned, the main
The top range.
main structure of the model.
For this case, is no problem, because this case is only based on literature. This type was developed here, but for other models, it will be a problem. Not for this process. I have some other models related with Fischer-Tropsch, with methanation and so on, that were developed and that is available, but with data and with partners from the industry, and they have some concerns about, even with using new technologies like NetMix, that is a new technology that is patented now, and these companies have some concerns about to make these models available.
So it is left to the author to share it or not. Huh? So that's for sure.
And this could be a further level, let's say.
Yeah.
We start with some models that can be shared, can be published.
That's what it was very relevant, what it has been proposed by Belgium in the part of, let's go with layers. So let's go zero, who can go to zero? You saw the trend that it was basically everyone can go zero. Some of them can go one, no one would like to go full.
Yeah.
And most probably, as you are discussing, if for some reason there is an embargo period that finish and someone wants to be full, clear, transparent about the model, they can. And if this model, let's say the full, transparent, clear one is available, but the end of the task is not a problem, because the models, they can also be upgraded until the end of the let's say of the task. But in the first year, we may have something that looks like a database, that is not like a sort of just a Titan with a paywall, let's say, block flow diagram. So we need to have at the end of this year something that is at least level layer 2, layer 3, and we can decide if afterwards someone want to make it layer 5 or 7.
Okay.
We need to start with a set of models that are now available and no problems to disclose this models. So then people start to be confident about the work of this task.
Exactly.
And then we go to the next step and see how to implement the other models that are confidentiality.
Yeah. But then we'll also give maybe the floor, because we have Belgium, Germany, Sweden. So
Okay.
Wait, just because I wanted to add a remark on the slide that is here. So a machine learning model is a model, right? So the main differences is that on if you have an Aspen model, you will describe what you have been doing to activate a model. In the machine learning, I think that the most important dimension will be to document the database, so to report on which data and the model has been fitted.
Yes.
Right? And but machine learning is by definition a model, right?
Maybe if Belgium or Germany, Sweden, I see.
So I have to leave. Bye. Have a good meeting. Okay?
Thank you, thank you very much, Fernando.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Please go ahead.
So, hello everyone, I'm Julia, and I'm representing the Belgium consortium, which is on the University of French.
So our department is mainly working on CO2 capture utilization and industrial decarbonization. And I'm a PhD student working specifically on industrial decarbonization with some aspects of symbiosis. And so if I first talk about the list of shareable models, we have different process blueprints for a lot of different industries. So from quicklime, methanol, formaldehyde, glass, instant coffee, syrup production, etc., that we are willing to share with you. So these models were, models using the Osmos tool, and these are white box models. We decided to work on a confidentiality level of an open source model, since we are only relying on open access data that we validate through industry, like if it's within the right range or not. And the publication status depends on the sector. For example, glass and sugar has been published already. Quicklime and cement are on the way. So it depends on the type of sector. Now, we also have some process blueprints that were developed for flue gas treatment units. And these are based on correlations that we developed within our team regarding the cost and energy demand. So we have models for CO2 capture, so for absorption using amine-based solvent, Selexol. We have for membranes. We have some cryogenic models, but these are based on literature. And more recent models include DNOx and DSOx models that are also based on developed correlations. Regarding Aspen models, we could share maybe the DNOx and DSOx models, since they are based on data from the literature, but we need to verify the licensing conditions before sharing them. Now, regarding the feedback on the simplified data template, the proposed model is okay, so it fits with what kind of results we can extract from our models. And we think that templates should be adapted depending on the software type to like accelerate like the data sharing, so to reduce the time that is related to that. That's why, well, simplified template is important to share the models and to be able to understand how these were developed and how we could reuse them. But they're associated with a limited accuracy, so maybe we are not sharing like full details, and that's why maybe we would like to share contact details to directly contact the authors and interact with them if we need some something more specific, or maybe just give an explanatory text explaining in general how the model is working, what kind of resources we're using, what kind of results we're extracting from that. And of course, such templates might be time consuming, so maybe have like a simplified template at first, and we could add some fields if we want to add more details or not, because depending on the software type, for example, we might not be able to like complete all the fields. And regarding the model sharing, we are, well, it has been discussed, like the Aspen models developed based on industrial data, so their own specific design or operating conditions. We would avoid sharing them. For unpublished data, we would like to first publish them before sharing the models. And as I said earlier, for proprietary softwares, we just have to check the license specifications. Regarding anonymization, data, mainly round numbers or uncertainty ranges, should be okay from our side. And regarding this citation, it's important to be acknowledged in the database, and to allow free sharing, use, and distribution, since it's like the basic principles of open access models. We are not requiring any co-authorship on derivative work, but we would like at least to be referenced like our models was used, and we require no compensation for that. And regarding the recognition protocols, we think it would be nice to have like a standardized guidelines. So we have like the base case, but in case we have to adapt these protocols for some specific cases, we think that the author should be able to ask for case-by-case negotiations. And regarding the levels, we are willing to go up to economic data publication, since most of them are coming from like literature. So yeah. So that was all from my side.
Thank you. Rafaela, I will have some comments. So something which is perhaps important, because here we have mainly been sharing a structure of information. But this structure of information is in fact included into the documentation of the information. So it means that that's what we are using with the Quarto approach, is that not only you share a table, but you share the description of the table. So where the data came from, can be a paper or a report. And associated to it, there is another dimension, which is the bibliography that is used to generate this information. And what I would propose there is that we associate to each of the technology a Zotero sub collection, so that then we can really show from where the data is coming from, and have a full documentation. Now, with respect to the recognition, then I would have a suggestion. So I don't know if we are able to do it, but we can consider that a model is a document, because it is documenting the model, that can have a DOI, provided that we follow an editing strategy. So it means that if we submit the document, so it's a document, in fact, in the database, so it's not just the access to values, but it is a document with bibliography, with a template. So it means that we follow a structure. And in this case, we could decide among us that if the review process is correct, we allocate a DOI to the model that is shared. And in this case, it becomes a publication, okay, with a certain value because it is inside our consortium. But nevertheless, we make it public and we certify that it has reached a certain level of quality. Okay, and this can be considered as a preprint. So I would consider it as a preprint. So it means that afterwards, you use this as a basis for afterwards making a paper or whatever, where you use the model and you present the results. But we could go up to, but then we have to define the rules for doing it. But we could go up to the DOI approach, and in this case, so it will be perfect because then it's a very easy way to recognize the contributions of people, right?
So maybe we pass then to another partner. I see maybe Robin, Florian, if you would like to put some words.
I prepared a short presentation too. There. You see my screen?
Yes, perfect.
Wonderful. Yeah, we wrote down some thoughts of our own for the task, and we were the ones with no Aspen experience or usage at all. We model in Python, therefore a slightly different aspect of view to the task. Our contribution would be a cement production process model from an electrical point of view. We're working on a thermal point of view too, but the contribution would be the electrical point of view. And the model would contain the whole mathematical representation of continuous flow production processes. Here, as an example, for cement production processes, it's already implemented into a framework. It's an object-oriented framework which represents different production process stages, the electrical energy system, PV systems, battery electric storage systems, and so on. It's an open source framework. It's named DRAF. It's down here. It's an acronym for Demand Response Analysis Framework. And the underlying solver is Gorobi. And for the task, we looked at the way we document our models and how we could transfer our way of documentation to the template that is proposed. And therefore, I collected 2 examples of documentation that we do. One on the left side, the parameters and variables for our models. They are mainly documented table-wise, like you already presented in the task materials, with units, descriptions, and other metadata. And the other one are the model equations, where we list down the underlying mathematical model, but also a description, what each equation aims for to represent inside the model to have efficient models in the end. Further down, we then compared it to the template that you provided, and we think the template is on its right way. It's a fitting approach to collect models and the underlying data, but we see a challenge in differentiating the act of modeling itself and the summarizing collection of already existing models and provide those models to the academic or the whole world outside. And therefore, we would like to give the thought of keeping the differentiating in our doing in this task to focus on documenting and summarizing models, but do not model ourselves inside the project. And therefore, our concerns are that have very less concerns in this regarding especially the publication. Our models are mathematical models mainly. There we have no concerns on sharing or publish those models, but the underlying industrial data, as previously stated, we cannot share those because they are part of a few very hard non-disclosure agreements, and they especially state we are not able to share those with any other party in the end. But when we publish, like the model I showed, we use public data, reference data, for example, for this model from Spain, where they already published a reference data set for cement industries. And this could be a feasible approach for this task too, that we create or collect reference data sets to validate our models, and others can use these reference data sets to validate their own work too. We use those sorts of doings in the electrical energy system modelings we are doing. There we use many of the public data sets. And regarding the citation and the usage of the models, I go with my previous speakers. We require a citation from the original authors, but we do not want to be, or we do not make the requirement to be part of the author team. Our goal is that it is possible to follow the development history of the model, where it is rooted, from which base model it is derived, and which steps it took to be further developed in the future.
Maybe can I ask you, so regarding if you use this Python, will you be interested in providing, let's say, the model in a form of a surrogate, because it's similar to the template in terms of the input-output definition? Maybe we can do a bilateral meeting to see how can we narrow down this into a, let's say, common understanding between the two templates. But I fully agree with you that, I mean, depending on the mindsets that we may have in the different frameworks, it will be difficult to, at the beginning, to understand exactly how does it fit the template. So we are really welcoming any suggestion that you may have about how the template can be improved, enlarged, or eventually, as it was presented by some of my colleagues, is if we need to have different templates then that fit into the different versions of the model that they are sharing. So nothing is written in stone now, and we are really open to any suggestion if you may have for this increase or enhance the template. Okay, if you don't have any other comments, then I will give the floor to, I see that Judith and Simon, you are over here.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes, perfectly.
Yeah, okay. So I will share the slides that we have prepared. I think Simon had to leave, but anyways, I was supposed to present them. So yeah. Yeah, so can you see the slides?
Yes.
Yeah, perfect. So yeah, we work at Chalmers with a project called FoodNERC, and it's mainly about CCU, CCS, and electrification of petrochemical industries and also refineries. So the models that we have are aligned with this. The first model that we would like to share, or we would like to work with, is the Fischer-Tropsch reactor model, where we have already started using this template to see how we can integrate it. And yeah, and it's based on literature data. It's validated also with other literature data, and it's using low temperature Fischer-Tropsch. We use an Aspen Plus approach. So we use a combination of a gray box and also detailed simulation of it. We have other models apart from that one, also regarding the dual fluidized bed steam cracker to produce olefins from waste. And that is done with experimental data of the reactor that we have here at Chalmers. Right now, we will not like to focus on this one first, but first on the Fischer-Tropsch, and then try to share also the dual fluidized bed one. Some suggestions about the template. We have seen that going from Aspen to the template is a little bit time consuming, but we think that it's a good way to report it. It's difficult for us also to shift this mentality to start using like a more variable approach than what Aspen does, but it's, of course, something that we think it's good and that we can learn from it. And I was the person who put the comment about the composition. Fischer-Tropsch, of course, has a lot of products, and also the dual fluidized bed, also including contaminants that sometimes are very small but have a big impact. Therefore, we think that we would like to have a larger composition list. And regarding the concerns, we think that the way that you have simplified the results are very good. We are, of course, concerned about it since we are collaborating a lot with industries. And of course, the ideas that we have for our models and also some of the data, it has been done in collaboration with them, so it may be confidential. So as I mentioned to Daniel, I think already in the bilateral meetings, it's not the data that we put into the model, but it's also how the model was, like how the units are placed, that it's also confidential. So until we don't publish, we are unable to share those big models, but we are able to share parts of the model as we are saying now. So for example, Fischer-Tropsch would be a part of that big model that we can start sharing. And of course, at the moment that we publish, we would like to be able to share everything or as much as we can regarding time, of course. So as much time as we have to translate it to the template. And we would like to be cited as well, as every other person has said. So yeah, I think that's good for us.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, we discussed this part, and I guess that it's important that everyone maybe agreeing that the models as modules, let's say, and small modeling units, they may be less important than the combinations that we are mentioning. And then this is the part that probably we were discussing as well yesterday about like the part that can be actually patented or claimed as novelty. So we could have like a further discussion about like which is this minimum amount of information that you can put per model that it doesn't make it to disclosing. So too much information that is disclosing, let's say, in this way. So I see that there is also, so we went to Canada. I see there is Frederick Madsen, there is Li Yung Wu from Canada. If you also would like to give some impressions about the models that you would like to use as a starting point, or if you have any concerns about the confidentiality.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, perfectly.
Yes. Yeah. I'm Li Junwu from Canada, and Natural Resources Canada, CanMet Energy. It's a research body of government. It's the first time I attended the meeting, so I'm basically observer, trying to understand what is you are doing this task. I'm interested in we are research lab, Bridge University, and the industry. And so I saw here quite a few in university research teams here. So yeah, so I'd like to to know more what you're doing, so we can bring your model into our. We are more in the application part of the research. So if we can bridge some your model with industry needs, and so that's part of my job. And in Canada, we, particularly for me, my project more work on oil sand side and natural gas decarbonization for hydrogen production. So I have some model is Aspen HYSYS mostly. So I just come here to learn and also find a way if I could share on my study too. Yeah, that's what I'd like to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your attendance. So I see if I am forgetting someone else that is far from here from our in-person meeting. If you would like to give another impression about the models, or if you are also new to the task, feel free to feel free to interact with this. So someone else would like to give another comment, maybe as well here in the room. If Pablo, I forgot because you were here.
Pablo.
That you also need to give your 6 minutes interaction from Colombia. Yeah, sure.
No se dando conectar al.
¿Estás compartiendo?
To enter
In the meantime, maybe if someone else would like when he connects, if someone would like to have some other comments, maybe about what has been said for the other participants.
Maybe for the river bashing, how the Gaspar models can be translated into like this kind of templates that we propose, right? I mean, currently in the lab, we are able to, let's say, attach directly some Aspen screens into directly our, let's say, framework. So maybe as a future development, as a solution and as a opportunity to, let's say, reduce the time needed to translate these models, right? We could somehow establish a connection or somehow like define pathways in Aspen instead of like giving the full details of a, let's say, connection. You can directly call a path and it could be quite, I would say, time saving and incentivizing for translating the models.
Yeah, exactly. So there are like some APIs or some .com functionalities that can help you to extract the data more easily from Aspen. And this part, maybe we can do some workshops specialized on that in case that someone would be interested to apply them. Paulo, I give you the floor.
Okay, great. Thank you for the opportunity. It's a pleasure to be here. And I would like to start with this. The research areas in our case is related with the future energy scenarios, also integrate biorefineries and how to add value to residues and for sure byproducts. And after that, how we can also consider advanced biofuels production, electrification for sure, and synthetic fuels. And based on that, we start collaboration, and there is a network called UniRed that joined most of the important universities in my region in Santander, and there is support by the energy company of the oil and energy company called Ecopetrol. We start to connect with the Chamber of the Commerce of the city and also in the industrial sector, looking for collaborations with them, and appear some options. The first one was related with hydrogen. Yeah, so in Colombia, in Cartagena, they want to implement low carbon hydrogen roadmaps. Yes, so we start the collaboration with them and have the possibility also to discuss in bilateral meeting with also with Brazil. And the idea is to reduce the quantity of emissions in terms of CO2 based on green or low carbon hydrogen. Yes, for that is the horizon is present in the slide, and there are at least 3 big moments. The first one is also reduce the internal consumption. After that, how we can replace this kind of hydrogen for green hydrogen. At the end, have the robust demand of the production. And in this way appears the Coral project. The Coral project is related with the first project in Latin America that address the production of hydrogen, yes, in a big scale, in an industrial scale. And for that, this project is one of the most representative in Latin America, also with technology and these boundaries outside the battery will be, that means the equipment production will be created in Colombia, and also promote the local jobs, local labor. Yes. So it's a big deal with that. And the idea was, okay, how we can connect universities, research center with the industry. We're working on that. But the first point is confidentiality. So when we start to talking about that, the directors say, okay, to offer to you this industrial data is not easy for us because this is the business. So we can obtain like alternative case scenarios that you can use partially the information. So we have this first agreement. Second one, the idea is to promote also startups. The idea is to promote people that are in the app part of the course, yes, and the future professionals to continue with us in research and innovation. And for us, we want to apply for multinational collaboration funds. For sure, appears information or publications together and mobility supervision and future workshops. And I would like to also mention that they have a strong collaboration with Brazil as well. This is a big also project. It's called CEPEN, Complex Industry. And I was there in a mission in October and was amazing experience because I say a small word appears here because they want to produce a hydrogen from the north of Brazil to produce to Rotterdam. And right now, 30% of the business is part or is controlled for the run of Rotterdam. Yes, so the idea is to valorize and enter the power to X system, for sure ammonia in part of the discussion. And you can see here, this is a picture of this place, this region. It's roughly 800 kilometers from Brazil north to Rotterdam, and it's a big project. So the idea is to also try to be part of this sector and provide real case studies for our region. Yes, so this was roughly the progress that we can obtain in these 6 months. And with that, in terms of collaborations, they are super open, but again, restrictions with the quantity of data we can provide. For example, in the visit that we realized complete on October, we can only visit half of the complex because the new part is super like secret or top secret, and they don't offer information about for example, the capacities, the new installations that will be complete until end of next year. Yes, and with that, I super agreed with the position about the shared positions, shared models. I also complete the survey, and for us, the idea is to bring together new development, new innovation, and try to, was mentioned yesterday in the presentation that all of the activities that we create at a university or research center could be also aligned with the industry. For that reason, the most activities was related with establish these connections between academia and industry that, at least for us in Latin America, is not so easy sometimes. And this is the first part of the project. And with that, we want, for sure, we will obtain some data and information that could be replied and will be useful for new collaborations. The task. Okay. This is from my side, and thank you for the opportunity.
Are you going to model in some units or just?
Yes, the idea is to go for, we have expertise with Aspen, and for sure we are also moving for open source options as well. You have some license, but it's not like open access for all of the students. So we have some restrictions in terms of the number of license. But I would like to also, and right now with the master thesis, and we are preparing a commercial software with open software. And the idea is also propose key performance indicators and as well compare the robustness of the model.
Thank you very much. Then I am going to take back control of the screen. So for sharing my screen again, I'm going to go. Oops, I need to move something because Zoom has this control panel. So we were supposed to do some breakout sessions, but I guess that we are reducing number of participants. So the idea was that in fact everyone could have some time with the reduced group. to discuss about the confidentiality issues, but I guess that it has been quite efficient, let's say, in the way that we have done it. So if someone would like still to have bilateral or breakout sessions with a small amount of partners, depending on the technology that you are working on, maybe we can program it for the future, let's say, sessions. Maybe in the next year we are going to start discussing one by one, case by case, how to deal with the models. So I may assume that this part of the breakout session has been done in an alternative way, and it has been efficient enough. Then we were planning to have a break. If everyone would like to have that break, just please let me know, or we can try to just discuss quickly this part of the annual report. So everyone, if there is not any objection, maybe we can go ahead with the part of the description of the annual report. So the annual report, as you may know, is a requisite that is asked by the Secretariat of the Task 24. This occurs, as the name says, annually. That feeds the annual report, like the global report of all of the IETS TCP programs that is done by Elaine Johansson together with the colleagues and the coordinators of the IETS. What we would request for you is something actually very simple, because it's a report that it doesn't need to be too much detail. It's more about like the sharing the experiences that we have had about the models, definition, the rules of the game. So if I would describe basically the maximum 10 pages, minimum 5 pages that we are supposed to contribute to the annual report, it will be a brief description of your country's consortium, so your experience, your research focus, all of the things that we have basically discussed during these bilaterals and in plenum meetings, and other task collaborations. So it's important if any of you are associated to these other task collaborations, because this is an indicator of how they measure that the task is actually not being like an isolated island, is discussing with other tasks. For example, we have let's say collaborating and co-organizing the workshop that we did in the beginning of this week together with the Task 11, that is biorefineries. And then it was related to the industrial symbiosis. So we found like some synergies between the two Task 11 and the Task 24, because they are interested in analyzing industrial symbiosis. But we know that industrial symbiosis, one of the key, let's say, features of industrial symbiosis is to have good models, so that we are able to put them together and realize how those models can interact. That is one of the definitions, or one of the, let's say, dimensions of the industrial symbiosis. So this brief description, a list of the conferences or other relevant events that you may have attended, because it's important to show that as a task, let's say, of the IETS TCP, we are disseminating. So you can claim that you have gone to a conference, and in this conference you have tackled some of the problems about the models definition, model sharing, model structure, or about the energy integration of those models. This can also be, let's say, claimed as part of the results and contributions to the task. It doesn't matter if it overlaps with other tasks, because I was telling you in the beginning, tasks, they can collaborate. So task 11, task 24, they may have different dimensions of the same contribution. So if one is biorefineries, for giving you an example, then you may say that you have contributed with some KPIs, with some decision makings of the biorefineries. But then you can also claim that in the task 24, you have let's say, contributed, you have disseminated what is related to the part of the model definition, the modeling, the data gathering, the parameter selection, or even the integration of those models. So there is no any problem in having this overlapping between task contributions, provided that you give like ideas of how you have contributed to each one of the tasks. It's important then, and I have seen in many of your slides, that you have these exemplary diagrams or snapshots of your model structure. How do you define your model? Which is the boundary or the control volume of your model? This is very important that you have shown already these kind of details in your slides. And any raw materials that, let's say supplementary materials or raw models, links to other databases that you have been used or you have been based on or you have contributed to. So there is this PSC community.org, there is this FOSCE, that is like an Indian DWC database of models. Why? Because it's interesting to know as well if there are models, databases of models that you have previously used, that you have previously contributed to, and then you can report them here in your contribution to the annual report. A simplified descriptive workflow. Okay, this basically, we see that in the slides, mostly we discuss what we have there, but if you can, let's say, increase 1 or 2, 3 more paragraphs about the workflow of your, or a screenshot of your let's say, model simulation. I use Aspen, and then I do some post-compute in Python. This will be interesting. Or similarly to what has been presented by the German consortium. This is more or less my framework of optimization, modeling, and synthesis of processes, and why it more or less differs from what it has been shown by the other partners. So this is also interesting to have. And then in the end, if you have like types of output reports, like how do you document? If you say, I basically use Excel, so a spreadsheet, so we have received it from the Netherlands as well, some documentation that they do in the form of Excel files. So they say I have different tabs similarly to our template. This is also interesting to know, how do you document? Because then we can try to align if, as you have reported there in the survey, if it's better to use Word files. Maybe it's not the best option if you would like to trace back some changes, but maybe you will be interested to know how we use Quarto or how we use other reporting tools in our lab. And this we can, of course, then prepare workshops and etc. So how do you report? How does it look like your report of your results? Is also interesting for us. So you see, there is basically something that allows the Secretariat and the other partners to have a condensed version, not necessarily all of the details, not necessarily already a pre-filled template with all of your data, but if you already have it, which is fantastic. But the annual report as well is mostly based on summarizing everything that we have done in the last year. And this we are proposing a deadline, and I fully understand that it could be tight because of the Christmas and the vacations and the end of the semester. We are just proposing a tentative deadline of 19th of December. If it's too tight, it's okay. We can try to maybe shift it in the exceptional case towards January. But I will be already starting to receive some of these contributions from the different partners. We are going to start putting them together, let's say, in our report, together with other results of the survey and some, let's say, potentially descriptions of our template, which were the criticisms that we received, etc., in our template. And this will be like some of the memories of what we have done in the first, let's say, annual period of the task. So if anyone has any, let's say, doubt about this contribution to the annual report, you can already raise your hand and then maybe ask more details, or we can clarify it one-to-one as well after. Of course, we will be available and the team will be available for discussing these doubts.
You send this file, this presentation.
Yes, I will share all of these files and the template.
We can follow this kind of template.
Exactly.
Points, so.
Exactly. And if you want to put something else, something more, so really feel free. This is something that is just a suggestion. So if you want to already send a template pre-filled with many other comments, and you want to do it more than 10 pages, you are welcome to do it as well. So it's just more for, let's say, for your peace of mind. That is not something that is actually too constraining. That is like if you were doing some condensation of your contributions over the year. This is what we actually would like to have for this report. Okay, so if there is any other question, I can directly answer it during the meeting. No?
It is really a description of the work done and not the results.
Exactly.
So it's really to show that there is an ability.
Yes.
And that we are, where we have to go all together.
Yeah, and the networking.
Don't forget that we are in the first year, so it's also that we are consolidating the consortium.
Yeah, and the rules of the game. So that's exactly what Francois mentioned. It's about networking, and it's about dissemination and experiences. So the experiences about what you have done, dissemination, where you have presented, and if you would like to criticize or comment what other partners have done, so that's also perfect. So you would have to say, I consider that maybe the suggestion of Belgium, it could be interesting or too restrictive, so positive, negative, but all of this is what the task is about. It's about the networking, and it's about the sharing experiences. The results, the nitty details, let's say, of the models and everything, that will be part of the database that then we will have an infrastructure to build in the next 2 years. So as Francois said, next year, rule of the games, rules of the game, let's say, and then next year we will go like for this technical and more deployment dimension. So that's part of the next step. So maybe we will need to discuss so this part of the start right away. So many of the persons were already saying that there will be some problems on time availability. So let's start to weigh in between ourselves. Let's take one model. So depending on your availability, depending on these rules of the game that we are going to consolidate in the annual report together with the survey. Each partner can start with this model, the shareable model, with the first layer, third layer, or seventh layer that he wants to identify these interfaces in the template. This is like the task of the next year, and then start to build your own model with and then offer them to the rest of the participants. The metadata, the mass energy emissions. So this is what we call the ports, and not necessarily the let's say the equation of states of the system. The documented and referenced parameters. So let's put here, let's say, the emphasis on the fact that we know that the model can be shared in a raw form, but we would like to have documentation. So where do you take this parameter? How do you define this assumption? This is what is actually interesting to create the trust between the models. The description of the main decision variables. So also let's try to be more strict between us in terms of engineering. So a parameter, a variable is not just this number. So that's we are suggesting to try to have like this maximum, minimum range, this kind of other objects that you may define on variables. If you consider that are like too much, too detailed, or you don't understand any of those, let's say, classifications of the parameters of the variables, we can also discuss. And then all of the supplementary material, flow sheeting, and everything that you may have available about the model. So you can also start thinking in which can be shared like in a specific CPL folder, let's call it like that, like in a bundle of the model. And then we start to see how the infrastructure, where it's going to be located, how we are going to then realize how to do this versioning, and how we are going to share if it's initially internally in our task, or we are going to start opening from the beginning to a wider audience. So these kind of things, we are going to start discussing it as well, depending on the data that is inside of the models. And then this, as we know, it will be the major contribution of the next year. With that, I say that we have many models as well that we have already started documenting, of course, not by one person, but we have a big group and together with master students. So our group have been like lately working on this as well, because we have another tool that will be part of the Swiss Confederation, and we will be really happy to share with you models and optimization frameworks. All of the information, as you know, is already available in the website. And for the persons that have already delivered all of the commitment letters, so we have already shared that with the Secretariat, or the ones that still would like and have been convinced by the first year of discussions. Also, please, if you haven't signed the commitment letter, you can sign it, and then we will be very happy to make you like on board of our task. With that, I guess I don't have any more slides. If there is any other comment, question that you would like to raise, so I will open the floor for free discussions. François, if you have any other like conclusive, let's say, discussion, or anyone of the teams of Pula, Oktay, Meire, that have been, of course, extremely helpful to make this consolidation of the survey and descriptions of the concerns of the participants of the consortium. If you have any other comment to conclude.
I can just say, like, I just presented my presentation yesterday, and I found out like it will be really very easy if we have a model where like if we don't have to work from the scratch.
Yeah.
So it will be really very easy for the other people to also join and work together, and it will like reduce the task for the new PhD, as I was a new PhD. So like to have a database of models, so we can actually develop further from that.
Okay. So say that, I guess that with this is what we have prepared for the meeting. So I will send you all of the files. It has been said, the templates, the slides, maybe some examples of what we have been doing with our models, and we say that maybe we can define if in the beginning of February or in March we can start doing a meeting to follow up what we have done, or mid-February, if everyone is let's say available. I will send the invitation as a placeholder, but feel free to suggest any other date. Then I will say maybe 15th of February, or if Francois, what do you think with the courses, compatibilities?
Just before we start again.
Okay.
15, it's Saturday, it's Sunday.
Sunday.
14.
Okay, so Sunday maybe will be
No, it's
too much.
it should be 13,
Could
yeah.
be- So it could be maybe 13, yes, to keep the tradition of the Fridays.
Something that is perhaps I mean, just to add as a suggestion, because we are going to discuss it now with the people from Lisbon. So there is within this project an initiative on cost estimations of equipments in industrial processes. So if you are interested in contributing to this, so let us know. Probably we will start an initiative at least with the people from IST. But if others are interested, so it would be nice to have all the people who are ready to contribute around the table, and probably we will organize a specific meeting for this. This is something which is also interesting because there is a collection of different methods to do the same cost estimation, and I think it would be nice to consolidate this not as a single value, but the capacity of generating collections of values. Okay, so do not hesitate to contact us if you are involved in this approach. I know that Pula will also make a link between the cost estimation and the environmental impact assessment of equipments, and therefore again, so if you are interested in contributing, it means programming or reviewing, right, or using, we would be happy to have you on board.
Okay, so with this, if there is no other comment, thank you very much for all of your time, because we know that this takes time, and then hopefully this one day will give us the fruits that we are trying to collect. They will be helpful for everyone, and for everyone that is not here in the construction right now. And have a nice weekend, and see you next year. Ciao, ciao.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye, thank you.
Bye bye. Thanks.
Look at that.